Don't have sex so you get pregnant and die. Don't have sex in missionary position. Don't have sex standing up. Just don't do it, okay? Promise? Everybody gets some rubbers. This was said by a high school coach teaching sex education in a popular movie, Mean Girls. Now, you may think, well, this is just a movie. It's not real, but this is something that happens to kids in sex ed class taught by a teacher that's not qualified. This is why we need a better sex education program taught in grades 7th through 12th grade. If we don't correct our current system, we will continue to have high STD and teen pregnancy rates, which means that kids will be getting infected more, and teen girls will continue to drop out of school. And this could happen to your kids or your future grandkids. When I went to college for the first time, I was told to sign a form to get my dorm key to get the HPV shot. Now, I had no idea what that was because I wasn't taught that in school or at home. It turns out that it was something that could cause you to get cervical cancer, and that happened to one of my friends. So that could have easily been me. So today I will be going over why it's important for us to correct our current sex education program by covering the negative effects it has on kids today, how we can possibly change the program, and how we can help our kids and future grandkids. You might not think this topic is important because we have the internet to teach us things, but that's actually far from the truth. Teaching just don't have sex is doing more harm than good. This is the problem that's leading to high STD rates, which about 3 million new cases of STDs are diagnosed each year among people aged 19 and younger, according to Dr. John Stanley. About 4 to 10 young women will experience a pregnancy, which is scary high. When it comes to STIs, the CDC reports about 20 million new infections occur each year, 50% of them being 15 to 24. American teens still have the highest rates of adolescent pregnancy and transmitted sexual diseases in the developed world, according to Dr. John Stanley of the CDC's Division of Adolescent and School Health. We have so much sexual violence going on because we just focus on not having sex. We don't teach kids how to respect one another's opinion on the topic. 16 to 19 is the age range that women are four times more likely than the general population to be victims of rape, attempted rape, or sexual assault. 7% of sexual assault happened while the victim was attending school. You might think your daughter is safe at school, but this could be happening. Sex is not only about sex. Sex education is not only about sex, but also about accepting our bodies and navigating through puberty. By middle school, 40 to 70% of girls are dissatisfied with 2 or more body parts, and 34% of men are dissatisfied with their body parts. Not that media and other factors don't play a big part, but if we start teaching our kids, these stats will begin to drop. When I was in 12th grade, I finally learned about my period in anatomy class. Before then, the only thing I knew was that we got one, but no in-depth information about it. With every problem, there's a solution, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable it could be in this case. By making a few changes, we can make a big difference. If we get qualified teachers to teach the classes, they will help the kids be able to get their answers instead of relying on other sources such as the internet. You wouldn't go to your math teacher about your English class because it'd just be like talking to a brick wall and you wouldn't get any information. When I was in school, we used to have this thing where police officers would come and speak to us about texting and driving and use the shock value. So I feel like if we adopt that into our sex education program, that would be able to connect more with the kids and get them to understand. It should also include everyone in the conversation, such as the LGBTQ plus community. LGBTQ plus also deserve to learn the ins and outs of sex. Only California, Colorado, Iowa, Washington, and Washington, D.C. have state laws or regulatory guidance requiring sex education to be LGBTQ plus inclusive. We should have a law that sex education is required to be taught in 7th through 12th grade in all 50 states. For example, in Germany, sexuality education is mandatory starting in primary school at the state level. Sex education in school is mandated by legislation. In 2015, ages 14 to 17, only 30% were sexually active. 57% used condoms and 72% used birth control pills. This is what they teach in those classes in Germany. They touch on important topics such as domestic violence, human rights, and sexuality. By changing the way we teach young kids about sex education, we can have a drastic and positive change in our future generation. Our future is depending on us. If we continue to teach the way we are, we will continue to spend more and more money on STIs. Right now, Americans spend $16 billion in related to healthcare costs each year related to STIs, when we could be using that money for free college. We need to get rid of the teaching sex education will cause them to have sex when kids will do what they want to do regardless of what we say. And we will be able to have victims that are victims of sexual violence talk more about what they went through more openly. Movements like Me Too are because we aren't teaching our kids and we're not being as open about sex. It's up to us to take a stand to protect our kids and our youth and empower them with the knowledge. Sex education programs in 7th through 12th grade will not only help the teen pregnancy and STD rates, but also help kids be okay with talking about this openly. By petitioning for a law or just a mandated sex class for kids, also getting those speakers and teachers who are qualified to teach these classes. Before we just brush it off and say, well, that's the parent's job, think about how your sex education experience was. Or ask a friend. Not everyone was taught by their parents or their teachers. Even though it's scary to change something that we're all so used to, if we continue to drag our feet on this, if we continue to drag our feet on this, because it's clearly doing if we don't fix this, we will continue to drag our feet on this because it's clearly doing more damage than good. Thank you.